Yes, Chairman, good to go now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's strategy group meeting. I have muted you all. If you could please remain on mute unless you are speaking. That assists with the audio and with feedback. And if we can please use the blue hands so that, and then I will take it in order that the blue hands appear on my screen for those that want to contribute. So to begin with, first of all, just check that we have a roll call, don't we, Tony? Is that still the same?
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. If that could be taken care of now, then, please.
Okay. If members, if you could just confirm that you've got audio and visual, please. So, Councillor Richard Auger.
Yes, both. Thank you.
Councillor Adam Brown.
Yes.
Councillor Alan Chandler.
Yes to both.
Councillor Daniel Cribbin.
Yes to both.
Councillor Joe Guildford.
Yes to both.
Councillor Adam Hills has sent his apologies. Councillor James.
Yes to both.
Councillor Lomax.
Both, thank you.
Councillor Morgan.
Yes to both, thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
Yes, both.
Councillor Randall.
Yes, both.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, is everybody happy for me to confirm the minutes of the strategy group held on the 10th of September?
Agreed.
Okay, no hands, no one wishes to speak or amend. Thank you. Okay, that's considered agreed. Apologies. We've already apologies from Alan Hills, who isn't here purely because of IT issues. And we didn't have any others. Ian Vincent, sorry, please.
Just to say that Audra has also sent her apologies, Chairman.
Well, thank you, Ian. Appreciate that.
And Ken Ritchie will be joining us late.
Oh, thank you. Cecile?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Do we have a roll call for the people who are present but not member of the strategy group? Because otherwise you will not know who was there or not. And normally you always note the attendant.
I'm not too sure. Tony,
yeah, Chairman, if I could just respond to that. We won't take a roll call, but we are recording who's in attendance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Declarations of members' interest, please. Obviously, if you have any disclosable interests, then they need to be either disclosed now, or if at any time during the meeting you feel you have a disclosable interest, you are responsible for disclosing it at that time, and then we will check the monitoring. Thank you. Okay, into tonight's business. We start off with BT payphones, access and communication. David Smith.
Thank you, Chair, and good turnout. So you've all made a special effort to come along for my first ever report. So thank you for that. So yeah, I think this is quite a straightforward one, really. From time to time, BT will put out to consultation the removal of payphones, and this is our response to that, to the latest one. It's a removal, looking to remove 9 payphone or call boxes. As you can see in the report, one is already being signed across to Cretan, so that takes us down to 8. There's one in Byfield, which the parish council have indicated they want to take it over, but they haven't put in a formal request. And you can see in the papers there, we've then got Brixworth, Cottersbrook, Cottersbrook is a K6 box, which is the ones, the traditional boxes that we're all very familiar with. Then running through to Daventry, 2 in Daventry, 2 in Longbuck, being 1 at Wilton Locks. Yes, you can see in the report that we are objecting to the removal of all 9 boxes. A little bit of history in the report as well. giving certainly information reference to the K6 boxes, which have been around since 1935. In more recent times, I'm sure you would have seen around various villages, for example, in Weedon, the K6 box in West Street is now a book exchange. And you may well have seen on Gardener's World a few weeks ago, there's a village that's made their K6 box into a seed exchange. So yeah, quite interesting. So I don't think there's anything particularly controversial here. We are objecting to the removal of. So open to any questions.
Thank you. I'm not too sure everybody came just because it's your inaugural, but it's nice to think that they would. Anyone that has any comments, please, with regard to this paper? No, it doesn't look like anyone has anything to say at all. So unless there's anything you want to conclude with, Councillor Smith, I propose we resolve the matter and we move on.
I agree. Thank you.
David, anything further?
Nothing further, no.
If you're happy to resolve this item, can we please indicate? Okay, any abstentions or any objections? No, thank you. Okay, thank you. Move on to item 5, strategic and planning issues, starting off with the conservation area at Long Buckby. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Chairman. We should all be very proud of the record of this council for producing conservation area appraisal and management plans through the review process, which has been carrying out for the last couple of years. But this is a new one. This is an area which currently doesn't have a conservation area, Long Buckby. Now that might surprise some of you, as it surprised me. I hadn't sort of noted that Long Buckby wasn't a conservation area. I thought it probably would have been. It does have the canal passing through it, which includes therefore the canal conservation area, but not one of its own. And the review of our current situation has allowed proposal to be drawn up for a conservation area within Long Buckby. It covers High Street, King Street, Church Street, Nuns Lane, Marketplace. Well, you can see in the paper where it covers, and of course it does the usual things of describing the historic and aesthetic significance and character of the chosen areas, and sets out the architectural analysis and spatial analysis. The document also includes proposals to identify a number of buildings which are considered important but don't qualify for listed status as locally listed buildings. And it also suggests the introduction of some Article 4 directions at specific locations to protect historic features such as windows and doors. Consultation is required as part of the process, and what I'm hoping for tonight, Chairman, is a resolution that the consultation should be undertaken on the draft conservation area appraisal and management plan for Long Buckby, and also Article 4 directions controlling development with regards to the specific matters of alteration or replacement of windows and doors, alteration to roofing material, and construction and demolition of walls, gates and fences. Just to remind members, Article 4 directions doesn't mean you can't do it, it just means you have to apply to what we must learn to call development management for permission to do it, and that means that it can be controlled or managed in a sensible way in accordance with the needs of the conservation area. I hope that everybody has enjoyed reading through the proposed conservation area appraisal and management plan and have found it as interesting as I obviously do. It's a new, as I say, a new area. We currently have over 30 conservation areas, so this would, I think, make 32 if it gets that far. So I think that's all I need to say, Chairman. It's a resolved item that we should carry out the consultation within the limitations of the COVID pandemic. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions that they want to raise.
Thank you, Alan. As I was reading through it, I was thinking what a really interesting job it must be to put these reports together. I'm a keen genealogist, and as I have tracked my family back, I like to go back to historic events and historic sites where my ancestors were. So this, you know, must be a fantastic opportunity to link to the past. Are there any, Councillor Osborne, is there anything you would like to say just on your patch?
Yes, definitely. The first thing I've got to say is, what a fantastic report. And I've read through quite a few of these, but I've never read through my own. It's absolutely brilliant. So to the people that compiled it, a great big thank you. Some of it was most enlightening. Didn't say anything about my house there. It's 1700 and a TV man lives there. It doesn't say that at all in it, but it's absolutely marvelous. In fact, I showed it to my grandson, who's coming up 13 and very interested in history, and he wants it as soon as I finish with it, so he can see all the pictures and read all about Long Buckby. It's absolutely marvelous. One of the best reports I've ever seen on Long Buckby, that I can actually say to people, please read it. And I will willingly second the portfolio holder's proposal to follow the recommendations or resolutions, Chairman. Thank you.
There's no need for the second, but we appreciate your sentiments on that. Councillor Adam Brown, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, fully behind the move to consult with the good residents of Long Buckby. But whilst the subject of Article 4 directions is before us, may I ask the portfolio holder what, if any, fees are associated with a homeowner wishing to make an alteration to their property that may be subject to Article 4 directions? Thank you.
Thank you. And do you know the answer to that, or do you want to refer to officers?
I might seek officers backup, but as far as I'm concerned, they make a planning application and there are fees associated with that, which are set by the development management people. Don't know if Tony wants to
any officer would like to just confirm that, please, for Councillor Brown.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to confirm that, but I will find out and let members know in the morning, if that's okay, Chairman. I think, unless Simon knows, I think he's indicating.
Yes, Simon Bowles, please.
Councillor Chandler is absolutely right. The standard fees apply. Because these are minor householder schemes, it'll be at the very lowest end of the scale of planning application fees. I don't have the exact figure to hand, but it will be sort of £100 or less, and will be my suspicion. But as Tony said, we can check the precise number.
Yeah, I would like Councillor Brown to be informed of that. So presumably, if these Article 4 directions were not there, it would just be permissible development, and they wouldn't require any fees. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Councillor Brown, does that answer your question?
No, but I look forward to the answer. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Councillor Colin Morgan, please.
Thank you, Chair. As always with these documents, a fairly light agenda this evening, of course, isn't it? But it's always an absolute treat when this comes to strategy, these papers. And I'd also like to echo Councillor Osborne. It's a beautifully produced document. Also, like you said, you know, it's great history. And of course, at the moment, we're still very much in living history. And again, as always, I really want to compliment the team that puts these together. I think one point of correction now, actually, for Councillor Osborne. I think you'll find, Councillor Osborne, it does mention, actually, particularly these days of troglodytes, everybody living in caves. I think you do get a reference. I think it refers to an old gentleman who's been repairing televisions in the village of Long Buckby since the year of 1700. I think perhaps that's referring to you, sir. That's all from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Councillor Irving Swift, please.
Yes, just to come back for the Article 4, in our ward, Richard, we have an Article 4 for a long time in Welford. And it is true, but like all listed building and Article 4, it occur some planning, and it would be planning fee, but they are not that expensive. But more importantly, it secure a lovely environment for everybody. It's a step forward, and it allow people who live around the conservation area, who could have an impact, a negative impact, to be aware of it. And it's not to make them not to do things. It's to make sure what they do will be done with appreciation of the environment. So for me, an Article 4, it's a bit an odd thing, but I am in favor of it. And the fees are normal fees. So that means they don't have development right automatically. And if they want to do, they have to pay a small fee. And sometimes they don't, depending. But that is what I have to say about Article 4. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Irving-Swift. Councillor Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed reading the report. Yeah, it was most informative. Just really moving on from Adam's comment, if we could share that information across, I think it would be useful to all councillors, because they will be asked questions, I'm sure, from time to time. So even a small guidance note reference Article 4, I think would be useful, because it's fairly emotive when you've got one on your property. So if we could have that, would be brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Members will remember that we have upcoming a members briefing session on Article 4 directions. That's going to happen very soon.
Yeah, I think we will. It's a bit like Marmite Article 4, isn't it? You either like or you hate them. But yeah, we'll be interested in the debate. Councillor Jonathan Harris, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to echo Councillor Irving-Swift's remarks. I agree it is Marmite. I'm aware that Councillor Brown is not a fan of Article 4. I think we've heard that before. I think in the light of the changes to permissible development rights, I think Article 4 actually are on balance a good thing, particularly in conservation areas that exist across the area of Daventry. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, but it's good to have views on both sides. We are a broad church at Daventry. It's grateful for all views and opinions. Well, that looks like it for the debate. So if Councillor Chandler, is there anything you want to add before we resolve this item? No, okay. Okay, if you're happy to resolve this item, please do so. Please indicate raised hand, please. Thank you, members. And is there anyone who is against or wants to abstain? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is again with Alan Chandler. And this is, yes, interesting, this one. Proposed response to the consultation on the planning white paper. Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Chairman. Very timely discussion we might have on this paper. Some members were able to attend a briefing session last night on the proposed changes to the planning system, both the current ones and those mentioned in the government white paper, Planning for the Future. And if you were interested but either couldn't or didn't join last night's briefing, I believe it's available as a recording. And if you contact Tom James in planning policy, I'm sure he will point you in the right direction to do that. I don't propose, Chairman, to go through the paper in detail, just to point out possibly a few highlights. The government had issued this white paper, Planning for the Future, and requested responses for a consultation by the end of this month, the 29th of October. The consultation document is a fairly typical government consultation document. It asks specific questions, Do you like this? Do you think that is a particular good idea? What are they proposing to do? Well, some might say they're proposing to tear up the planning rules and throw them away and allow developers to do what they like where they like. Of course, they're not trying to do that, but it does look as though they're trending in that direction in some aspects of what they're proposing to do. Some of the things they're wanting to do are very, in my view, radical. They want to change the emphasis very much from planning applications being made individually to the local planning authority drawing up a local plan which says this is where you can develop and this is where you can't develop. And this might, they think, remove what they consider to be a blockage to the development of housing, which they think it takes too long to get planning permission. Not everybody will agree with that, but that is the view that they have expressed in the white paper. So it says that the local plan making requirements will be different. They seem to be suggesting that the emphasis on doing all the work, deciding where things should go and what they should look like, should move from the developer to the local planning authority, which of course has enormous proposal differences to the requirements for both funding and staff. And they are also suggesting that it can be made a lot easier for everybody if all plans are visual and map based and available on the internet. We do need to, and do in fact, point out that that doesn't suit everybody. There are people who don't have ready access to the internet, and there are those who prefer not to get information that way, even if they're able to do so. You can see that the so-called simplification of planning, it involves replacing current plan making system with a zoning system where everywhere is either a growth area, a renewal area, or a protected area. And the implication it being that if you're a growth area, then you effectively have got outline permission to do things, provided they meet the other requirements of being beautiful and sustained and connected, which are some of the other pillars in the planning document. As I say, Chairman, it's quite controversial in parts, and the proposed response, which I hope members have had time to study, points out the shortcomings of the proposal and makes, in my view, very sensible suggestions in some areas as to a better way of achieving the overall objective. The overall objective seeming to be that the government is determined to develop 300,000 houses a year, and it thinks that the only reason it can't do that at the moment is because of the planning system getting in the way. There are lots of views that counter that view, including the obvious statement that there are over 1 million outstanding granted permissions which haven't been developed. There are lots of other views about the willingness of local authorities to consider development in sensible places. That's always been the case. It's interesting to note two further things I'll say, Chairman. One is that there seems to be, from what we can pick up, a general view amongst local planning authorities that this white paper makes some outlandish suggestions that don't really or wouldn't really fulfill the overall aims that the government has. And the second point is that every day I read a comment from somebody in government that says, well, it's not really as bad as you think it is. We're not really going to do this, and we might not do that. It is, after all, only a request for consultation. So, having said all that, the officers have prepared a proposed response, which in my view is an excellent piece of work. It's got a lot in it, not just yes, no, don't know, which seems to be the options offered by government. Please provide a supporting statement. We know that some people think that we should be stronger in some areas and write a sort of preamble that says, really, this is nonsense and you shouldn't be doing it this way. However, we also know from experience that such a document would not be helpful, because the way in which this consultation will be processed back in Whitehall is that it will be gone through by civil servants question by question, and they will collate and, we hope, note carefully the responses from everybody. I just hope, Chairman, that the effort that's gone into this is appreciated to the extent that somebody in Whitehall will actually read it and reconsider some of the suggestions that have been made. I don't think there's anything else I want to say at this stage, Chairman. Commend the document to members of Strategy Group. This is a resolved item that we should resolve to send it as our response to the government consultation.
Thank you, Alan. Of course, we will make those political in a letter that I will be sending to influence. I will come to Steve Osborne first as Chair of Planning. So, your thoughts?
Thank you, Chairman. My first thoughts are, I thought the officers had made some very good answers to the points the government have raised. Very good and very professional. I looked through it and I could use one word to answer a lot of their, and it would be the same word. A lot of their points. But as I've said before in different forums, I can't believe we're heading this way. We've been heading this way for years and years now, and I still believe that, as many people do, that the government believes that local government and the system of local government planning, with the involvement, dare I say, of councillors who represent local people, parish councillors, and even letting local people have a chance to put their points forward, whether they be for or against development. They don't want any of that, but they believe that that's why they're not getting hundreds of thousands of houses built. Well, they've got a completely different view to local government, and local government believe they're not getting the houses built because the developers are stockpiling the housing, the planning permissions. What seemed to be good a couple of years ago under a previous leader was localism, which was great. Local people ought to have more input in planning and should do. The only thing I could say about the report is at the end it says, did you want to make any more comments? And I would love to actually this council to actually say in more professional words than I can put it what I just said, that the government believes, you know, that local government is responsible for not the supply of houses because of blah 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 blah, and we suggest a forum whereby authorities can speak face to face with the government, especially rural authorities, to express our views properly and correctly in order to get a better planning system and not a deteriorating planning system from government. That's all I can suggest, Chairman, but I'm certainly happy with the report.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Councillor David James, please. David, you're on mute.
David.
Got
Okay,
it.
start again, please, David.
I've listened to what Alan has said, and as many members here know, I'm not totally opposed to the government's aims in respect of their proposals. There are some things in there which are plainly daft, in particular, and one which is mentioned in the consultation, which is setting a 30-month limit to preparation of a local plan, which is a virtual impossibility. It's absurd to even suggest it. But I can go along with what the officer's report has said over most of the matters, particularly on SIL and Section 106. It's true that Section 106 does need some limitation, but the SIL is very important, I think. And it's important from this aspect. One, it's certain, it's easy to collect, and of course it benefits local communities as well through the collecting agencies. So I'm not opposed to SIL as it is, and neither is the officer's comments. But then there's a section in this report which does need some explanation and a little bit of history. And one or two people here will know that I've mentioned this before. And it concerns the suggestion of a development land tax on land values. Now, it's impossible to understand the issues here without recounting a little bit of history. When the 1947 Planning Act came in, effectively, it nationalised all increases in land value. And it did that by having a compensatory benefit, which was known as the unexpended balance of established development value, which when the land was sold, an owner could claim that money, because effectively their rights to build anywhere, whatever they wanted to build, had been taken away. Now, that was the position in 1947. And I remember having to do some of these calculations many, many years later. Highly complex tax it was. And then nothing was done until 1967, when the Labour government then introduced a betterment levy, which would take over from the old 1947 Act provisions, and gradually the unexpected balance of established development values would be claimed or would disappear. The betterment levy didn't work. So that carried on till 1973, which was a pivotal moment in British politics for a number of different reasons, one of which we're dealing with today, when the Conservative government, finding itself in a situation where house prices were leaping in 1973, and really leaping they were, the inflation was taken off as a result of the Barber budget of 1972, and our difficulties were compounded by a quadrupling of the oil price. So the Heath government introduced what I think was meant to be a temporary development gains tax. That didn't work either. Then in 1976, the Labour government introduced the Community Land Act, and that also had a development land tax in it, but backed up by compulsory purchase powers. And that didn't work, except for those authorities that took real advantage of it. Ironically, a Conservative authority, Christchurch Borough Council in Dorset, which was the one who used it the most to acquire land. But of course, the same old problems existed, which I'll come to towards the end. In 1985, the Thatcher government abolished the 1976 Community Land Act, so that anything after March the 19th, 1985 was free from land tax. And the reason that it did that was because we had such a thing known as capital gains tax. And of course, as you know, you can't have both development land tax and capital gains tax because one might cancel out most of the other.
David, sorry, David, can I just come in? There's 3 other people to speak on this, and it's
Yeah.
about resolving. Can we come to a conclusion? And your
Yes, I will do, but I must get this point over. The reasons,
but not too long, please. Thank you.
No, the reasons that this is a bad tax are these. One, each time it's been introduced, there's been a delay in land supplies coming forward. The second and most important point is that the cost of administering that tax was more than the revenue that came in. So there was no benefit to the public. And of course, we have to face the reality that it was, at the end of the day, politically unacceptable to bring it back. Hence, we've gone from 1985 to 35 years without this subject resurrecting itself again. And I really do think that this, reply in the consultation would be better left out for that reason. And particularly when it goes on to talk about marriage values, because there are some technical issues there which are not necessarily supported by case law or fact. So, I would prefer it if that on page 130, if the particular consultation on that item ended at the end of the second paragraph. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. David, look, your knowledge is extensive on this. Maybe it would be advisable for you to personally write in your capacity as a councillor, not only to the local MP, but also to the minister responsible, and add your voice and your narrative to the consultation. So I think that would be quite wise, as it's a very specific point that you have, and you articulate it very well.
Thank you.
Councillor Irving Swift, please.
Yes, I will be very brief, Chairman. You might like that. I think Councillor Osborne proposal that we add something at the end was quite a valid one, because I don't think we are, local authority are the one who blocks the system. We have houses, we have given planning permission, and they haven't been built because the developer will not build if they are in uncertainty or if they don't think they will have the buyers. So I think Councillor Osborne made a very valid point, and I don't know if you can add that at a later date. And also, as we said yesterday, you, as your capacity as leader, will have also the great privilege to write a letter to put our political point of view on that bill or the white paper. So that's all what I have to say, but I think that Councillor Osborne had a very good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Councillor Osborne's point is a political point, and I think that would be probably more preferred in a letter from me, and I will consider those views and how to articulate that rather than in a sort of an official response. But yeah, I accept this point. So that's perhaps something that I will consider in the letter that I write to the government. Thank you, Cecile. Councillor Stephen Dabbs, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I draw members' attention to question 16. Having waded through the report, and there's lots and lots of information there, lots of very good and detailed replies. Question 16, though, seems to go the other way. It's the one on sustainability priorities. And I thought that the answer was brief, to say the least, woolly. I think at the very least it needs more explanation, but I'm just thinking, we have declared a climate emergency. It's not a climate, oh, we got a bit of a problem with the climate, people. Climate emergency, we need to be doing things towards that emergency, and we need to be doing it now. So I think in the question of, do we have priorities? Oh, yes, we have everything which is a priority. That'll effectively mean nothing is a priority. So I would have thought that, some very simple priorities, what we want to build at carbon zero. So actually, when we're constructing, we do not issue carbon dioxide or anything like that. And we also need, in the foreseeable future, after the buildings are erected, that they run at zero carbon. Question is, how do we get there? And that's where we need to have the policies. I know it's another problem, but I can't help feeling that question needs a little bit more thought. We have declared the climate emergency, so can we have a better answer? It's just my opinion, but I think, you know, the word emergency means it's urgent. It needs to be done. We mustn't forget about it. Thank you, Chair.
I think you're right in many ways. I also think there are lots of issues contained within this that need to be addressed. Some councils will go heavy on the environment and some will go heavy on other areas. But I think my personal opinion is the government will get the message with regard to environmental issues, because it's something that is now accepted worldwide. But I do accept that maybe that could have been a more forthright, but I'm satisfied with its current content. Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Harris, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'll do my best to be brief also. Obviously, hopefully it was clear the position that I have on this particular matter. I would like to, though, put on record a recognition of the amount of effort that goes into responding to these reports. You know, it's hard work to plough through them, and it's also quite difficult, extremely difficult, even if you're a professional in this area, to actually make sense and put decent answers down. So I do want to put that on record. I would echo the points made by Councillor Dabbs. I do think it's a little bit light on environment issues and nature issues. That might have something to do with, of course, the way that the questions are structured in the consultation, because it is a response to the questions that are provided. So that probably won't have helped things. My only other comment is not actually related to the response itself, but just related to the summary of the report, and it's a minor point. But this I know this obviously will go forward for deadline consultation before the next council. But nonetheless, I think it's a point I should make. It does say under consideration 4.4, there is much to be welcomed in the objectives of the government sets out in these reforms. I didn't get a sense on Thursday at full council that that was the mood of the council itself. It didn't feel like it was much. At best, it was some, I would suggest. And it's just a general comment. It's not the end of the world if it's not changed, but I do think it's a point that should be made. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and just well, thank you, Councillor Harris. I'll just look with regard to those that have pretty strong views and feel that things should be slightly beefed up. You know, you in your own right as councillors, you have a mandate, and you can write those issues to the minister with regard and ask it to be considered with the consultation independently from this council. So you know, I'm satisfied that overall it's a good response. But I think that if you have particular areas that you do feel could be beefed up, please write under your capacity and your mandate as a councillor to the government with regard to it. That looks like it. Councillor Chandler, is there anything you'd like to say with regard to some of the comments that were said, and with regard to winding this item up so we can go to the resolution?
Thank you, Chair. It's good to hear people's views, and I share the concerns people are expressing, but I'm not sure that this document is the right place to air them, in that what we were asked to do was to respond to the specific points made by raised by the white paper, and the white paper talks in vague terms about sustainability, and it doesn't talk about the environment as such. I would urge members to remember that this is not a political report, it's a technical response to a government consultation. But I would also urge individuals, please do write to the appropriate government members and express your views as your views, and that your views are shared by the people you represent, or your views represent the views of the people you represent, because it's inevitable that when we as a council are asked to make a response, it won't please everybody, and it can't please everybody. But that doesn't mean to say that everybody shouldn't be making their own representation. So having said that, Chairman, I think we're all agreed that this is a prodigious effort on behalf of the staff concerned in producing this response. It is technically very sound, and I think therefore we should resolve to send it to government before the deadline at the end of the month.
Thank you. Thank you. So, members of the strategy group, I propose that we resolve this matter so that the response set out can be agreed. Please do so by the raised hand, please. Are there any against or abstaining, please? That again is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, is there any urgent business, please, to put before the group?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. In that case, can I thank you all for your attendance? I think it's great that this we have so many non-members of the group attending, and I appreciate that. I feel your support and your debate and your comments are appreciated, and they are noted as always. Thank you. I now propose we close the meeting, and I bid you all good evening.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Night.